Well, Arpin, I feel like I just came back from the studio, the TV studios in Radio-Canada, and it's in the morning, and here I see you back in your living room. Weren't you in Washington? So you're back pretty early.
I was. Had a 6 a.m. flight from Washington. Very short night, but,
got to do what you got to do, man.
When I booked the flight, I thought the Canadiens would be available here. Then they put out their schedule, and they were available in Washington. They're speaking actually probably as we speak, as we record this at 9 a.m. on the day after Game 2. A little bonus episode of the podcast.
Why not?
Surprise!
Here we are.
Yeah. Didn't want to commit to it, but we feel it's appropriate. So bonus pod here.
Well, there's also the fact that who knows how many of those games we're going to have to cover until they're done. So better go. Better discuss those games while they last. So I don't know. Maybe I'm too negative, but heading into Game 3 now, I see the Canadiens in the first two games being so close yet so far, in the sense that those were close scores. But there's Nick Suzuki after the game last night was saying they haven't seen our best, or we haven't been at our best, and that's clear. And if that was anything close to their best, that's not going to be enough to win against the top team in the East.
Well, the thing about that is that I don't think the Canadiens have seen the Washington's best either. That's the issue. Is Nick's right? They talked about carrying that momentum from the third period of Game 1 into Game 2. They didn't do that. The first period was definitely better than it was in Game 1, but it wasn't good. But they still managed to get a lead. They have a momentary lapse that leads to 2 goals, one of which I feel bad doing it, but David Savard cost him. It's just it is getting tougher and tougher to watch him at 5-on-5. It's an issue. I think he he sat on the bench for roughly 10 minutes of game time after that Connor McMichael goal tied the game. Of course, Dylan Strome scored a minute later, which was predicated by the Alex Newhook line, what was the Alex Newhook line, icing a puck, therefore getting stuck for a defensive zone draw. The second time in this series that's happened, the second time in this series that eventually led to a goal. It was more directly in overtime of Game 1. But that icing and having those 3 guys on the ice eventually led to that Dylan Strome, what turned out to be the game-winning goal, but the go-ahead goal at the time.
Yeah.
And then Marty deciding to park Laine, Armia, and Heineman for the third period, and going with a line of Evans, Demidov, and Newhook, which frankly looked pretty good, all things considered. So now, can you do that can you play 9 forwards for 3 periods? Probably not. Is that Marty's reality right now? Does he only have 9 effective forwards? You might say he has 10. I don't really have a problem with the way Heineman's been playing. And man, he had that chance on the ensuing faceoff after the Dvorak goal that really would have impacted this game in a serious way if the Canadiens had been able to go up 2-0 there. It's not the only one to blow a big chance though. But it's the Capitals are a 4-line team. They're everything the Canadiens hope to be. They have 4 lines. They come in waves. So Marty likes to say, the Canadiens are not coming in waves. The Canadiens come with
the Suzuki line and sometimes the Dvorak line, and that's about it right now.
That's about it. And then they got to bide their time until they can get the Suzuki line back on. And so, I think there's matter there's things that Marty needs to think about ahead of Game 3 for sure. And Patrik Laine is top of mind. There was a sequence, I think it was in the first or maybe in the second, I don't remember, but there was a sequence where he had multiple opportunities to shoot it, and he didn't. He was hesitant. When he did, when he does get his one-timer off, he's able to take wrist shots. He had a very dangerous wrist shot at one point in the game, but it seems to me the one-timers, he just can't, they don't have the same violence to them as normal, and he's hesitant to do it. So if he's hampered by something, there's no justification to keep him in the lineup. Like, there's none.
No, so I thought we'd keep Laine for a bit later, but let's tackle the issue right now because it's on top of mind, I guess.
It's the number one issue of the game, yeah.
It's top of mind for everybody. So I think, look, yesterday I thought the Canadiens started the game fine, lots of energy, but the minute that he touched the ice and he ended up with both of his feet not moving, just giving the puck away to the Capitals twice. That led to a Ryan Leonard chance. And from that point on, it got the Capitals in the game. And, you know, we were okay with his effort in Game 1, but last night it was horrible. The energy level seemed so low. The urgency seemed so low, and there's just no burst at any point, you know, in terms of skating and in terms of just, you know, if he was saving himself for something, it should have been for now. So if it's not happening now, when is it going to happen?
He was ready to flip a switch.
Yeah, well, I wonder what sort of switch that is. Let me remind
you. He's ready to flip a switch, and it hasn't been flipped. And so now I really do think Marty has no choice but to put Oliver Kapanen in the lineup in place of him, because Kapanen might not help you so much. He's not going to hurt you. He's a reasonably good positional player. He's probably not going to get, you're not going to get a whole lot of offense out of him, but he's not going to hurt you defensively, at least not to the extent that Patrik Laine is right now. So, and the flip side of that is when you finally gave Ivan Demidov some line mates that can actually impact the flow of play, he looked a lot better. Yeah. You know, that third period, he, you know, it's not, I think a lot of people, myself included, assumed that the stage seemed a bit big for him, that the environment was, and maybe in Game 1, that was the case to some extent, but I think a lot of why Ivan Demidov's having trouble impacting games, and he didn't have a huge impact in Game 2 either, but is the fact he's been chasing after the puck the whole time, you know, and that's largely due to the turnovers from Laine, the inability for Newhook to win faceoffs. Like, those two things combined mean that he wasn't playing with the Canadiens when the Canadiens had the puck, and he definitely didn't have the puck on his own stick all that often. And so once he was put with Evans and Newhook for that third period, I thought that line, and Marty kind of ducked the question. I asked him after the game, you know, what did you think of that line? Seeing if he might give some indication if he would stick with it, which he hates doing. You know, he doesn't like committing to like third period line changes too often. He's doing what he can to win a game. Generally, he doesn't go back to that the next game, but in this case, well, he said the 9 or 10 guys that we leaned on all did well, which would include Demidov. So,
but the thing is,
that's something they should look at.
Yeah. The thing is, if Laine is not on the ice when you're looking for a goal, yeah, if they sat him because they were trying to protect the lead, that's one thing. But now they were looking to score a goal, and he was just not there. So if he's ineffective or he's a nuisance 5-on-5, if he doesn't have an impact on the power play, and if you're trailing and you're not using him, it's probably because you've reached a point where he needs to be scratched. But, you know, you say there's no choice but to put Kapanen in the lineup. The other choice, and it's a it's always the last resort, but Marty turned to that option once in a game in March when Gouli came back. That's to go 11-7 and bring Xhekaj in the lineup. You started by pointing out Savar's mistake, the fact that he was sparingly used in the second period. The second period with the Canadiens were pounded for 18 shots. If the Canadiens just had 7 Ds, maybe that it could help them. And you have 11 forwards. You can roughly keep the top 9 the way you finished the game yesterday, and then you alternate your centerman, but mainly I guess Suzuki and Evans, and perhaps also Dvorak to play. With those with Heineman
and Armia
occasionally.
Yeah.